What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of 2Smart Dummies podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marcus.
And I'm your host, B. Reed.
Beatty, what's up, man?
Nothing much, man. Excited. Basketball tonight. NBA's back.
Okay, so we hope y'all tuned into the NBA preview that we released this morning. Recorded that yesterday, and we are ready to get this NBA season kicked off. But it's been a minute since we talked about the NFL and college football. Do a little state of the union, see where our teams stand about halfway through the season for the NFL, and basically we're about last month for college football. Man, it's kind of flown by.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into the meat of it, though. We're about to get some good matchups, some good games. We're going to determine if these teams are good or if they're bad. We already saw Wisconsin take a fall right before they get ready to face Ohio State. But this is the time of year when we start to see what teams are made of. I like to say the preseason just ended. It's about to get into the meat of it now.
Yep. Had some really good games on Saturday. Michigan and Penn State turned out to be a really good game. Texas almost lost to Kansas. That came down literally to the wire. Nothing of real consequence, but it was a really good slate of games that it didn't seem like it was going to start off that way, especially once the first domino fell in Illinois beating Wisconsin.
Yeah, it was homecoming for a lot of teams. I like to pay attention to who teams bring in for homecoming. Like, I don't understand Oklahoma State bringing in Baylor for homecoming. I guess they have been on their downturn, but they actually are good this year. So not a good homecoming for them. They kind of blew the game and got blown out. But props to Kansas, man. I don't like Les Miles. I'm not a Les Miles supporter. I'm like 95% sure when he leaves Kansas, they're gonna be under investigation. But he has those boys rolling, man. He's a player's coach. People love to play for him. They should have won that Texas game, man. They should have won that game against Texas. They just gave it up at the end. They gave up too many yards, too many big plays at the end of the game. They were up 28-27, just got the 2-point conversion, and the defense just couldn't get a stand for them.
So, I've kind of talked a little bit about, college football. This hasn't been the best season. The top-ranked teams don't look great. Alabama, okay, but Alabama literally has played no one this season, not a soul. Clemson doesn't look good. I think that, the ACC is so bad that once they're going to go undefeated, they're going to get in the college football playoff, and maybe they start to hit their stride, but they look bad. They look vulnerable. They look like they get mopped up by Ohio State and probably Oklahoma, probably Alabama. I don't think they're one of the 4 best teams in the country. But how do you start to see things shake out, right? Because you've got a one-loss Oregon at the Pac-12. Are they too far out? Because they lost to a good Auburn team. You've got LSU sitting there undefeated. One of them or Alabama is going to lose in the SEC championship game. And then you've got Clemson, you've got Ohio State, you've got Oklahoma. Where do you think things will start to settle?
Well, we still got a lot of football to go. That's why, the first half of the season was, slow. I guess the first, third of the season, because you only got like a quarter of games left, but this is going to be the best quarter of games that are really going to separate people. Oregon played a relatively tough schedule. Their schedule's probably been tougher than most teams, like Alabama. They played a lot of conference foes. They played Auburn. So to come out of this with one loss, I think they're better than we've been giving them credit for. Don't think the quarterback's number 1 pick, but that team, that's a good football team. As you said, Alabama, they hadn't really played anybody. Tua got hurt. Luckily, they got a bye week this week. They're not playing anybody. They'll be able to easily skate by Arkansas. But other than that, they still got to go against LSU. Joe Burrow looks good.
He looks really good.
They got to go against LSU. Who else is in the West that's a threat to Alabama besides playing LSU?
No one.
I mean, so you're looking at a LSU and then Auburn. You got to play Auburn at the end of the year. So you got
Yeah,
LSU.
Iron
Auburn's
Bowl.
always a tough matchup for them, the Iron Bowl. And then right into that, they're going to end up having to play Georgia or Florida. So they got their three toughest games right ahead of them. ACC is bad. Clemson is tough, man, because you look at them and you say they look like trash, but I feel like we've said that like 10 times before. Like they always look bad against bum competition, but then when you get at the end of the season, they come to play. I literally think it's that they play down to their competition. Now, true, Lawrence hadn't looked good. He
looked
hadn't
bad.
looked good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's looked really bad now. That's the only concern I have. I don't have real concerns about the team as a whole, just because I've seen them do this before. But even with a Kelly Bryant, like the quarterback is the problem. If you got a good quarterback that you can trust, like Deshaun Watson, and y'all play bad, that's one thing. But then when Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he had shaky performances last year. He just performed in the game that he counted against Alabama and Notre Dame, but it took him a while to get going against Notre Dame too.
You know
So
what's funny is we're so quick to in college football anoint the next guy, right? Like I remember like coming in the season, I was like, man, Trevor Lawrence, that dude is it. People were calling him the next Peyton Manning, surefire number one pick in 2021. Now I'm not so sure, and it kind of reminds me of Garrett Gilbert for Texas. Do you remember when Colt McCoy got hurt in championship game? They brought in
yeah,
Garrett Gilbert, and they started comparing that fool to Dan Marino.
he
Like,
had a horrible next
oh,
year. Like
he's
he was
terrible.
awful.
So, I mean, Trevor Lawrence isn't that bad, but I've seen nothing that makes me think that he's going to be really, really good yet. So
Well, I still think he'll end up being the number one overall pick because he has all the tools, he has the
he
size,
does.
he has the
Yep.
arm strength. So once he gets in the combine, whatever he does, kind of Sam Darnold type, it's gonna be no way to be denied because NFL coaches are arrogant and they're just gonna say he had bad fundamentals that I can coach him up. So I
Yep.
still think he'll be, top 5 pick, but he hasn't looked good, and it's gonna be sneaky because it's gonna all depend on the Big Ten. Looks way tougher than I thought, and Ohio State's kind of been
They do.
coasting, but they have a tough schedule in front of them. They still have Michigan. I'm pretty sure they still got Penn State, and they got Wisconsin this week. Even though Wisconsin just took a loss, that's a wake up call. That doesn't mean that that's a bad team. They still got a Heisman candidate running the ball back there, so. It's not a given that Ohio State's going to come out of this unscathed. We have a bunch of one-loss teams. You got Georgia, still has to face Florida. I mean, it's getting interesting in college football. So I think we still have a lot of things to iron out.
Yeah. Who do you think the favorite is for the Heisman race? I mean, let's take away some of the NFL, probabilities because we don't know yet, right? But I like Joe Burrow for the Heisman front runner right now. I don't think they're going to give it to a running back like Jonathan Taylor at Wisconsin.
And they just lost, so
And they just lost, which is going to be tough. Tua's might miss some time with a high ankle sprain. That might be it for him. Jalen Hurts is definitely in the running. I've heard a lot that Jalen Hurts could be a first-round pick. I don't know about that.
well,
Maybe, but I don't know about that.
it's all about fit. It's all about fit and scheme. Like, is Lamar Jackson a first round pick if he doesn't go to a coach like Harbaugh out in Baltimore, somebody that's going to try to make him sit in the pocket and be a pure passer? He's probably not a number one pick. I mean, he's shown real strengths and improvement this year on passing, but he's still not a pure passer. But they do a good job of using his strengths. So I don't know which teams could use Hurts, but if you can use his legs, because he's a big dude, just like Lamar Jackson, he can take those NFL hits because he's built like a running back. So if you're going to use his skill set like that, I do think he can be a number one pick and a weapon. But if you're trying to have him sitting back in the pocket and reading defenses, he's still not good at that. I mean, you put pressure up the middle, he's going to backpedal, throw off his back foot. He doesn't make his reads good. He still wants to roll out of the pocket. As far as a pure fundamental quarterback, he doesn't have that. I would guess that he would be more like a 3rd to 5th round pick.
Yeah.
That would be the sweet range. I don't think you take him in the first round just because it's really dependent on scheme and how you're going to build around him. Now, in saying that, Heisman, I think he's a close second, but I got to give it to Burrow right now because he performed better against Texas. So playing the same competition, if they're close, he was far better against Texas. I think Jalen Hurts had 3 turnovers in that game, didn't look particularly well. He comes back and plays a bad West Virginia team, goes 15 for 16, 400 total yards. Yeah, that's all well and good, but the only pure competition that Oklahoma's played has been Texas, and he didn't perform well. So I would give the nod to Joe Burrow, but right now I think it's Joe Burrow and Justin Fields. I like Justin Fields too, but it's a 3-man race for me right now, and there's still some opportunity for some other teams to move in. But right now, I'll go with those 3.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So we'll see. A lot of college football left to be played. As you said, we're going to get into the real nitty gritty here. But with that said, let's move on to the NFL. We're halfway through the season coming up this week. Some really good games this past week. Starting with the Chiefs and Broncos Thursday night. Uh, Patrick Mahomes looks like he's going to miss some time, probably 2-3 weeks. Can the Chiefs sustain this? They've got someone coming to town this week, and I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. I'll have to get back to you, but
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be tough, and this is my always been my fear about the Chiefs is that they don't have a legit run game, and a lot of what they do is based off just the magic of Patrick Mahomes. They had a 2-game losing streak before coming into this game. Now
yeah.
they lucked up and played the Denver Broncos, that is just a nightmare. It looks like they're tanking as of right now.
And they've got the Packers coming to town Sunday night. So
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be really tough because that Packers defense is legit. And without a true run game, I don't think you can really depend on Damon Williams or LaShawn McCoy to carry the load.
nope.
Matt Moore, he's been good. Now, I will say they got a really good backup in Matt Moore because he's shown the ability to be a good, solid backup quarterback for 4 to 5 games. This is a Drew Brees situation, man. They just got a whole court, man. They just got a 2-2. They already won one of them. I don't see him missing more than about 3 games. It seems like they said he's out 4 to 6 weeks. You got to remember though, kid's tough. Patrick Mahomes is tough. In college, you didn't see the best of Patrick Mahomes because it seems like he was always hurt. Like, what's his name from Marshall?
Byron Leftwich.
Byron Leftwich, like the offensive line, picking him up, carrying him to the line. Man, it always seemed like Patrick Mahomes was limping, had a high ankle injury, and he always came back faster than he was supposed to for Texas Tech and put up plays, man. At 60%, that kid is still dangerous. So
It's
I don't
a shame,
anticipate him. Yeah, it is.
I really was looking forward to a matchup with him and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that would have been a fantastic game to watch Sunday night. Of course, NBC's pissed off now. I mean, nothing you can do about it, but that would have been a game that most of America's. I mean, you're talking about a possible Super Bowl preview, but also 2 of the best quarterbacks in the game. That's a real missed opportunity. So that kind of sucks to see.
Yeah, I mean it does, but I mean they can still win. It's still a good game. You want to see what they look like without him. So if they win without him, you do want to see the highlight of Patrick Mahomes. But I think it'll still be a good game. I mean, we were really wrong about Green Bay. We said they didn't have any talent, but this new offensive coordinator, he's doing a great job to play into Aaron Rodgers' strength and using his talent. He's getting the most out of that talent. So this might have been a coaching issue last year because those wide receivers, I still think those wide receivers are bad. And they're winning without Devontae Adams. They're doing a good job of using those running backs and, just not making plays to beat you. Aaron Rodgers looked good. He looks healthy. This Green Bay team is dangerous just because that defense is way better than we thought.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers looks really, really good. With I'm still not sold on those receivers like you. They need Devontae Adams. Now going against the Raiders this past week, more I think about it, I think the Raiders are a playoff team. I really do, or at least that wild card team. I look at their schedule; they play the Bengals, the Jets, and someone else like that are really bad. So they've got some chances to get up on them. But the Raiders were in this game, all the way up until halftime, basically. And the score was 42-24. But if it weren't for Derek Carr being an idiot, the Raiders are in this game because the Packers could not stop the Raiders' offense. And that's an offense that's missing, Tyrell Williams, their best receiver. So the offenses were kind of mirror images of each other. The Packers are vulnerable against the run, and Josh Jacobs carved them up really good. But again, Derek Carr, you got a chance to get it's 14-10 going into halftime, and you're at the 2-yard line. You're going to go in for a score. All you got to do is turn around and hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs. Now that might be a John Gruden call or a Derek Carr audible call, but either way, Derek Carr dives for the pylon like he did 2 years ago against Dallas to win the game, fumbles out of the end zone. And from that moment on, that was a 14-point swing. Instead of going into the half 17-10 or 17-14, now you're down 21-10. And then the Packers got the ball back to start the fourth quarter or the third quarter, came out. Now you're down 28-10, and just like that, the game is over. So
It
you
seems
know.
like that was a AFC West theme this weekend because the Chargers lost in the worst fashion that you can lose with a goal line fumble. Like that's
Yeah,
probably the worst way you could lose.
it's tough. It was tough to see, and you could kind of see that, it seemed like that the Raiders were just deflated completely after that. Now they've got the Texans coming to town, but their schedule gets easier on them. After the Texans, they've got the Lions, they've got the Chargers, they've got the Bengals, they got the Jets, who are all losing teams before the Chiefs come in, and then you've got the Titans and the Jaguars, which are probably Titans, Jaguars, Chargers, and Broncos again. So the schedule gets easy for the Raiders. They played about 18 home games or away games in a row, it seems like. But they're about to hit their home stretch where they're at home constantly, and they've got a very favorable schedule. So I was pretty
But
bummed after this.
I don't think like the Chargers and the Jets are as bad as their record. I don't think the Lions are as bad as their record says either. So
I'd
I
agree
don't
with that,
know.
but those are
I
winnable
don't know.
games for the Raiders.
Oh yeah, they're winnable games. I just think that those teams are better than their records indicate.
I would agree with you with probably the Jets. I don't think so with the Lions. I think the Lions defense is good. I think the Lions stink. I think their offense is trash. I think that Matt Stafford is bad. I think that their coach is bad, but their defense is good, and that's going to be risky. The Chargers, it's tough to tell with them because either the wheels could come off or they could start 2-6 and finish the season 10-6. So, you never ever know with the Chargers. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
I think once Melvin Gordon kind of gets going, he looked a lot better this week than he did last week. It takes a couple of games. Even Zeke took about 3 games to really get him going. So I think once he really gets back going and they really start to lean on him, even though they're losing Mike Williams, it's like they found Austin Eckler's role in that Darren Sproles slot receiver type role.
And he's even
So
better.
yeah. So I think that they can make both of these players work together. Um, I don't know, man. I just think the NFL, it's kind of like I said in college football. The second half of the season, I think you're going to see some changes in some of these teams. A lot of these records are close. If you're not the Patriots, you know what I mean.
Right.
I don't know how much I believe in the Niners. They're winning. It's just hard for me to believe that they're this good.
But you know what? It's their defense that's good because I don't think Garoppolo's any good. And okay, that's probably not fair to say, but I don't
Yeah.
I don't think Garoppolo is as good as I don't think he's a 6-0 quarterback. I actually think that he kind of stinks. Um, but that defense is legitimate. That defense is for real. But you kind of watch the game. The Niners weren't exactly moving the ball up and down the field against a pretty bad Redskins team. Um, so
But that game, you can't really indicate by
it
that
was
game. I
rained
mean, it
out.
was it was a monsoon game. The field was terrible. I mean, they were playing the Redskins. It was a terrible looking game. So I don't judge them by that. But that defensive line, like you said, man, that defensive line is, if it's not the best in the NFL, it's like top
Right
three.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they cause havoc on opposing quarterbacks in the secondary with Richard Sherman back there. They're just good enough. I don't know how good they are, but whenever you got a defensive line like that wreaking havoc on quarterbacks, it's gonna make that secondary look really, really good. So
Yep.
that defense can sustain them. I'm just at some point in time, the offense is going to have to score points.
Yep.
And what
Absolutely.
happens? What happens when that occurs? They made a trade today. They got Emmanuel Sanders in. Their receiving core has been a weakness. So I want to see what Emmanuel Sanders can do to make that receiving core better. Whatever you say about Emmanuel Sanders, he's always been productive. And with a quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo, I would expect for him to do a little bit better because Joe Flacco just closes his eyes and throws it to the wrong team.
Hopes for the best.
Hopes for the best. So if Garoppolo can utilize him as a weapon, maybe that can open up Debo Samuels. Maybe that can get George Kittle going. I think that's what they really needed, somebody to take the top off that defense to open it up, running back to George Kittle to move that ball.
So, speaking of teams that we were wrong on, the Chicago Bears, uh, they have a real issue, and everyone has talked about, they took Deshaun Watson, or they took Trubisky over Deshaun Watson. They took him over Patrick Mahomes. Um, this team is bad, and it's not really their offensive weapons, and their defense is they've got some injuries on defense, but that's still a very good defense. But Mitchell Trubisky is a problem. And I'm kind of looking at their schedule, man, and with them already being two games behind the Packers, and then I think 2 games behind the Vikings. I don't know if the Bears can make the playoffs. And that might be a little extreme, but I've seen nothing out of them, especially in the way of Mitchell Trubisky, that shows me that's going to be a team to be reckoned with. Your defense can only do so much because Trubisky isn't even a game. I mean, he's just not good. He's below average. So, what do the Bears do?
See, I don't want to say that. You quarterbacks, but if we said that and didn't put any blame on and never mind, that was going to be a bad example. I was going to use Jared Goff, but he's awful too. So my whole metaphor I was leading up to is trash.
Shit,
let me just say
he's better than that.
Yeah, let me just say I think a lot of this is Nagy's fault. Nagy has a problem. He thinks he's one of those overthinkers. This offense is way too complicated for Mitchell Trubisky. It's way too many reads. He's doing way too much, and he hasn't shown the ability to simplify this offense to just let Trubisky read half the field and do some things that helps younger quarterbacks in a complicated offense. This offense is we talked about. We joked about it at the beginning of the year where we came out with 3 running backs and did some kind of triple option reverse. Like he wants to use every weapon that he has on every play. You just can't do that with a quarterback like Trubisky. And they also made a mistake. They didn't play him in the preseason. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, as if Aaron Rodgers or something.
Yeah, they didn't play him in the preseason like he's Tom Brady and he already has it figured out. He needed those reps with those receivers, and he set him back. Now, he not only did he set him back then, but then he just got hurt. He set out again. I don't see a way. Now, hopefully during this bye week, they were able to do some things to get him comfortable in the offense, but he has too many weapons for them not to be able to move the ball. But it isn't just Trubisky. They're not using Tariq Cohen, right? David Montgomery.
Montgomery, yeah.
They're not using any of their weapons the way that they're supposed
to run the ball.
Yeah. So I think it's a Nagy problem. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to say Trubisky is complete trash. I am going to say that this offense is way too complicated for him.
But it's a problem though, right? Because if you're the Bears, you're built to win now, and you don't really have time for Trubisky to get his shit in gear. Now, that's your fuck up for drafting him number 2 overall. And there's been a lot of stuff being said, like the only reason that they took a Trubisky is because they're in Chicago and there's a lot of Iskies in Chicago. And Chicago's never had a black quarterback. So, and that's valid.
Lovie Smith pulls off the upset, by the way, of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Lovie Smith, Illinois, right?
Yep.
Got the gray man beard, so
which that beard game was going strong. I liked it. But because I can't justify taking Mitchell Trubisky, who started 12 career college games, over Deshaun Watson, who'd won 2 college championships.
Nah, he won 1.
One and threw for 400, 1 to 2, threw for 400 yards in both games. Like, I mean, there was nothing.
That's kind of revisionist though, because
it was bad at the time. It's bad now.
It wasn't terrible because Deshaun had a terrible combine.
See, I'll say this. I don't think the Mahomes thing is fair because no one knew Mahomes was going to be this good. Watson, I still think should have been the first quarterback taken off the board.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I just remember during that times that Watson either had his measurables was off. Something was wrong that scouts turned on him because, Chicago, I mean, Watson had some question marks. Let me say that. I wouldn't have took Trubisky either. 13 starts at North Carolina. I mean, none of that looks great to me. I never want to really take a quarterback from like a North Carolina or like a Duke, even though Daniel Jones looks good.
Does he? He had a good game.
Yeah, he had a good game. He looks better than Eli.
So, So let's get to the flip side of that. Are the Saints the best team in the NFC? Because their defense is rocking and rolling. Their offense without Drew Brees, without Alvin Kamara, is still beating the hell out of people. This is still a very good team. And is there a team in the NFC that can beat them right now?
I still like the Seahawks, man. I don't know why. I like the Seahawks. Even though the record isn't as good as the Saints, I just like how the Seahawks built, how they're built. They typically get better towards the end of the season, and they haven't been bad at the beginning of this season. So I personally think that the Seahawks are the best team. I don't know why. I think they're better than the Saints.
They just took a loss to the Ravens, and I want to say something. If John Harbaugh, if the Ravens keep going the way that they are, John Harbaugh does not get enough credit for how good of a coach he is
I
because
agree.
at the end of last season, people were looking at Lamar Jackson like after that playoff game, like, yeah, I don't know about this. And they basically built this offense around him. They got rid of a backup quarterback in Joe Flacco. They brought in RG3, so they put this system in to where if Lamar goes down, and RG3 is not great, but he's that same type of quarterback, and
Yep.
that is how you adapt with your players and your playmakers. And they built everything on, and they've got some good weapons around. And Mark Andrews didn't have a great game. They still need to do something with those receivers, but they're building around Lamar Jackson, and they look damn good doing it. That defense has come alive. I like this Ravens team, and I'm not seeing a way that your 12-4 Cleveland Browns are going to make a jump on them.
They already got a game on them, and they already beat them. I think head to head, they're a better team. But either way it goes, man, I think the NFL, what we're seeing with the NFL is this becoming more innovative. It's coming more like college football. You're going to see more college football offensive coordinators and head coach moving to the NFL because now you can't be stubborn and just like, hey, I got to get a quarterback to fit my system. The teams that are starting to win, or the teams that are winning, are coaches and offensive coordinators that are building their systems to the player. And that's what I'm talking about, the difference between a Harbaugh with Lamar Jackson as opposed to a Nagy with Trubisky. I think if you change those situations, Trubisky looks like a better quarterback. I think he'll do more things like Lamar Jackson, use his legs more, run more, and things like that.
Yeah. We'll see. Speaking of college coaches, though, I mean, you look at Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona, and now I'm confused because I could have sworn they were going to be very, very bad. And they've won 3 straight games. Kyler Murray has looked good. Arizona as a
Man.
whole has looked good. I'm not saying
But that goes back to my point, though, of that if you get a quarterback and you're willing to use his tools,
yeah.
it makes it a lot easier. I mean, and they're using Kyler Murray's strengths. And that's what a lot of these OCs aren't doing. They're not playing to their quarterback strength, and that's why their teams suck.
Yeah. You kind of talked about the Chargers and the Titans a little bit. The Titans won this game over the Chargers. The Chargers, they did everything they're just good enough to lose. Basically, they did everything they could to lose this game.
Bad luck.
So I want to go over 2 things real quick. The Titans, that Ryan Tannehill is not a good quarterback, but he's average. And I think he's better than Mariota. And you see that whole offense open up with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback.
But are they using Mariota's skills?
Mariota hasn't shown that he's going to be – I mean, the boy can barely hand the ball off correctly. He's constantly hurt. I mean, let's put it this way. That's the second point I want to say. Our two – if you had to put money on it, would you say that the class of 2014, that quarterback class is done? Because you've got, Blake Bortles, Johnny Manziel, they're already gone. Well, Blake Bortles still around, but, he's a backup. You've got Winston in Tampa, who they don't have a contract extension for him. This is probably going to be his last year there. You've got Marcus Mariota in Tennessee, who just got benched, and you've got Derek Carr in Oakland. And Derek Carr's not having a bad season. Derek Carr's just an idiot, and he cost his team.
That's kind of the theme of the class, though.
Yeah, and Derek Carr cost his team games at inopportune times. And, so is that class as a whole done? And who would you say had the best career out of all of them? It's tough to say.
Best career? Numbers-wise, it's probably going to be Jameis Winston.
Probably Jameis.
It'll probably be Jameis because Jameis, even though he's been bad, he's been in a system that throws for a lot of yards.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And Bruce Arians, taking a step back on Jameis makes some bad decisions, and he has really bad games, but he has not been awful all season. He hasn't been awful all season. He's had some good games. He had some bad games. That's classic Jameis Winston. But he's also been through, 3 or 4 offensive coordinators?
Yeah. But if you're Tampa, it's time. I mean, you've had 5 years of this dude, and it's time for him. It's time for them. I'm not saying that Jameis is going to be out of the league next year. I definitely don't believe that.
No, I think all these quarterbacks can be backups. The only one that I'm not sure about is Mariota. He can be a backup, but what system are you going to back up in? Are you going to back up? I mean, he'll be a great backup to Russell Wilson. I mean, if he got if he got out there with Pete Carroll. I think Pete Carroll could get the best because they play a similar type game. He's not as accurate. He's not a better passer than Russell Wilson. I'm not saying that. But 2 or 3 games, I think Mariota would be good. Blake Bortles, I think he still has a chance because Jared Goff is awful. I think if Jared Goff were to get hurt and you put Blake Bortles in there, Jared Goff will be – well, he can't lose his job. He just signed that massive contract.
Yep.
Too
Yeah.
much guaranteed money. So.
Yeah. So
man, it's not a lot of hope for this class, but Jameis Winston and Derek Carr has the best chances. I don't think that – I think Jameis Winston – I think that Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich actually like Jameis Winston. I think they can fix him.
I'd be curious to see that. I think Winston – I think he's done in Tampa. I do. I think they draft a quarterback. With Carr, it's tough to say.
If you draft him this year, is there a quarterback if you don't get to it? Because they're not going to be –
yeah, because you can look at Herbert, you can look at Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's draft eligible. So
is he?
Yeah,
he's a redshirt junior.
I thought he was a redshirt sophomore.
Is he a redshirt sophomore?
I think so.
Well, shit, if I can get Burrow, but then again, you're still fighting with the Dolphins. Is Jameis Winston definitely better than Tua?
But at some point it's time, right? You just can't keep. It's what the Bengals are doing with Andy Dalton right now. At some point, you just got to let it go.
But they didn't. That's the problem with That's the problem with the Bucks. They're idiots. Everyone from the outside was like, everybody that's on the team right now, this is a prove it year. But they don't have any young people backing them up to prove it. If everything goes wrong with Jameis, who they're putting in? Who's their backup?
Yeah, I don't know who that is. But it's the same thing with Oakland right now. They don't have a backup. But listen. I think Derek Carr is a quality quarterback. I'm not sure he's a starting quarterback. I think if you put him in Los Angeles with the Rams or in Chicago with the Bears, those are completely different teams. But like with Jameis Winston, I think it's just time, right? Like, we're a little tired of Derek Carr, and he's not a bad quarterback for the most part, but I think it's just time. And I think that the Raiders use a draft pick on him because Gruden didn't draft him. Mike Mayock has no ties to him. I think they draft QB and either move Carr or Carr will be a backup by the end of next year.
It's definitely a situation. It's a money situation, but it depends on who falls to you in the draft.
Correct.
I don't think in this draft you should be reaching for anybody because there's a better draft. They've got
2 first-round picks. If the Bears don't make the playoffs, that's an even better pick. And the Raiders know they have holes. And let me tell you something about the Raiders. Like, John Gruden has coached his ass off this year, and if the Raiders make the playoffs, you can throw him in for Coach of the Year along with John Harbaugh.
Well, hell, you paying him $10 million a year, he better.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this is year 2 of him. So, and people thought this was going to be a circus, and it really hasn't been. And I'm in on Mike Mayock. I've been in on him from the beginning. That this draft class that he's brought in, each one of these guys has been productive. Abrams obviously hurt for the year, but the game he played, he was good. So I'm in on him. We'll just see. We'll see. If the Raiders make the playoffs, Derek Carr probably is the quarterback next year. If not,
Mike Mayock gonna do some shit like draft the Illinois quarterback because he has moxie.
Yeah. Hey, but
I want to see what he does at quarterback. I can understand defensive line, the offensive line. He's good at that, but quarterbacks, him and John Gruden get a little shaky.
Yeah, but you look at what he's brought in: Cleveland Farrell, Max Crosby in the 4th round. Yeah. We'll see.
But you're talking about those positions. I trust him there. But him and John Gruden, when you start talking about core, I remember when John Gruden swore by Deshaun Kaiser.
Oh God, I do too.
You know what I mean? So it gets kind of questionable. I mean, when you draft somebody, you might want to keep Derek Carr for 1 year, like Eli Insurance. See what they.
I think they will. I think that Derek Carr is on the team next year, going to Vegas. I'm not convinced that he's a starting quarterback by the end of it. If they take the quarterback, but. Let's move on, man. So your Philadelphia Eagles got the brakes beat off them by the Dallas Cowboys. Doug Peterson went and pissed them off, opening his little fat mouth, and Cowboys really stuck their foot in his mouth. So what you got to say about that?
Doug Peterson got the headlines. It's not really what it is. It really just goes back to, number one, it's always dangerous when you get a team that gets embarrassed the week before, and then they come back and play at home. Cowboys were coming fresh off of getting embarrassed by the New York Jets, and then they come home. They heard it all week. Then you throw fuel on the fire. Doug Peterson promising a win, whatever he meant by it. So you have fired up Dallas Cowboys team coming in, and you get a lackadaisical Philadelphia Eagles team coming in. The NFC East, I believe we called it one of the best conferences when we did our preview. This is it's bad.
It
The
is.
NFC East is bad.
It
Because
is.
even though the Cowboys are leading the division, look at their losses. They
Yep.
have some bad losses, and they hadn't really even played anybody. I mean, whether you think that the Eagles are good or not, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, they're one against the Dolphins, the New York Giants, the Washington Redskins. They beat all three teams in the NFC East, and Miami Dolphins.
Yep.
Every other team they lost to. The Eagles, I still think they're a good team, but it might be time for Jim Schwartz to go, man. He just looks like he has no idea what he's doing out there. When the front four doesn't give pressure in that wide nine system, that system collapses. We've seen it happen in Detroit. That the front four has to get pressure, and when they don't get pressure, he doesn't know how to bring like design blitzes that still protect your linebackers. He's zero blitzing every time. Like
Which
there
is
was
gonna
one
get you
time on the
burned at
goal
some
line.
point.
He did a zero blitz with the safety guarding the slot receiver. That's the easiest call in football.
Yep.
I mean, even if the safety breaks on the ball, the next player to do the exact same shit and do a double move, you can't. It's one-on-one. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, and then Doug Peterson has really been calling it conservative. The Eagles have some real holes, but they have a tendency to do that. I just think that the NFC East as a whole is bad. There's going to be one team to come out of the NFC East. They're probably going to be 9-7, and that team gets in and probably goes out in the first or second round. Point blank.
So, how long? And you've already started to see. So we're recording this on Tuesday. You started to see some things in the NFL. Emmanuel Sanders has been traded to the.
What day is the trade deadline? Is it tomorrow?
I think it's tomorrow. Yep.
Okay.
Or I think it's Thursday actually.
Thursday. Okay.
It's one or the other. But you've had Mohamed Sanu get traded for a second round pick. To the
He's been having a great year though.
No. I just mean an older receiver. When the baseline has kind of been a third round pick, basically they got more than the Raiders gave up for AB almost. So, that was curious. But I guess, it was just one of those things like, hey, look, we need somebody in this building. Josh Gordon can't stay healthy.
I think that Josh Gordon injury might be worse than people are thinking.
Yep. And it seems like
second for Sanu.
Yep.
And you just won 33 or 7-0. It just seems odd.
Yep.
Something's not right about it.
So
he might be drinking again. I mean, this is a weird thing to do. You know what I mean? Even though he's injured, Josh Gordon is one of the weirdest dudes because like he'll get an ankle injury and then they'll be like, they said it's worse than they think it is. And then he won't show up, and then all of a sudden
he's checking the rehab.
Yeah, he's taking a year and a half off to get himself together. Like, it spirals for that kid quickly.
So if you're Atlanta, you get rid of Sanu. They're looking to trade Vic Beasley. It looks like it's time for Atlanta to blow this thing all the way the hell up.
2 years too late.
It is, and now you've got Dan Quinn, who surely will be fired by the end of the season. Because the thing about the Falcons is they are too damn talented to be 1-6.
Bro, they have Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Freeman, and you have Matt Ryan, who makes mistakes, but shit, he can.
And Austin Hooper, who's coming on as a really good tight end.
They're not even they're having trouble scoring. It's not even like. They can't stop anybody. They're having
10
trouble
points against the Rams, who've not been great this year on defense.
Like, Jameis Winston threw for damn near 500 yards on this Rams team. Now, yes, they did just get Jalen Ramsey, but shit, he didn't have time to practice. You couldn't scheme to confuse him a little bit?
And if you're the Rams, if you're the NFL, how many draft picks you going to let these fools give up? They done gave up at least their next 18 first.
Yeah, that's what I like about the NBA. I mean, the NBA has dummy protection against teams. They're not going to let you give up 8 years of draft picks.
The Stepien rule or whatever it is. Yeah, you can't do that in basketball.
Somebody did that shit and fucked up a team. They said never again.
So it was the 80s. It was the owner of Cleveland, Stepien, I think it was. Of course. And he gave up like 3 or 4 draft picks in a row. And his first round draft picks turned into James Worthy and Charles Barkley.
Oh man!
That's
a Cleveland move, though. That's a Cleveland move.
But it looks like somebody's gonna have to save LA from themselves because they got no money, and now they're just giving it. I mean, would you give up 2 first round draft picks for a cornerback?
bro, and a quarterback that you have to re-sign
That's
next
crazy.
year. And he already said he wanted to be the best player, the highest paid player in NFL. Like
When
they gave up money to Donald. They gave up
Gurley
all this money to Gurley. They
to
gave
golf.
up this money to Goff. And now all these signings have not went well for them. The only one that has went well is Donald, but I think he struggled a bit last year, I want to say, towards the end of the season. Am I miss?
Donald's been as solid as they have been, but he got hurt last year.
I thought something happened to him last year, but it seems like every time they sign a player to these max contracts, they don't perform to the level or they get hurt or something.
But it's not even that. They now you've got to pay Cooper Kupp, you got to pay Robert Woods, you got to pay Brandon Cooks. I mean,
Oh,
we know,
they're not paying all three of them.
and
I
they,
mean,
well,
we
they
already know
can't.
that.
They
Yeah,
can't.
Woods is going to be the one that goes just because they gave up picks to get Cook. So if you're going to have to sign somebody, you keep Cook because he's homegrown. You're going to probably have to sign Cooks, but they're not going to be able to keep this team together. That's why you don't invest in Goff. That's why, as a Sean McVay, you say, I'm the reason why Goff did this. Even we spent the first round, a number one overall pick on them, that I didn't spend that pick. You know what I mean?
You know what I haven't heard this year? I haven't heard that boy genius shit, golden boy shit out from about people talking about Sean McVay this year. And I think you and I talked about it earlier this year. The NFL figures you out very quickly.
Especially when your quarterback's limited.
Yep.
It's easy to figure out when your quarterback's limited because you can call whatever you want. You can be tricky and memorize every play and see all these reads. Your quarterback has to see the same things that you see. And if your quarterback isn't that good, like a Jared Goff, once the defenses catches up to you, now it's up to your quarterback to make the second or third read. You can only make it so easy for your quarterback. And I never thought Goff was that good. I would have let Goff play out this contract, see how he did. I would have risked franchise tagging Goff. Unlike me saying I wouldn't have done that with Dak Prescott, I would have risked it with Goff. With Blake Bortles back there, I would have risked it with Goff. And I would have took if he didn't perform well or if he performed well, I would have franchise tagged him. But I would always had either Blake Bortles or I would have drafted a quarterback to sit behind Goff because I don't think Goff has proven that he can win. Now you just committed all this money to him. And we all know teams get worse once you commit that much money to the quarterback. And you just committed that much money to a bad quarterback. Now what do? That's one of the reasons why you're saying it's time to move on from Carr. That's one of the reasons you're saying it's time to move on for Winston because they're getting into the range where you actually have to pay them real money. And are you going to pay them real money? No. You might as well go and draft someone else because it's better for your team because then you're going to have to lose positions where you're strong in. What if you can't re-sign Chris Godwin because you re-signed Jameis Winston?
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's dumb.
So I want to toot my own horn a little bit. Beginning of the season, Andrew Luck retired a couple of days before season started, or gave us 2 weeks notice, basically.
Yeah.
I came out and I said, I believe in Jacoby Brissett. Like, I think he's a franchise quarterback. He showed me that. And to this point, the Colts are number one in the AFC South, and they look good. They're hurt on defense, but they'll get there. But Jacoby Brissett has been, I won't say flawless, but pretty damn good this season. And I think that you might have said that Andrew Luck looked over and said, you know what, I think this guy can handle it. I feel okay with leaving them with him.
Yeah, he was willing to give back the money. I think that he thought you guys are in good hands. You're in good shape with Jacoby. Jacoby is really good. But that's the difference between a good organization and a bad organization. You got an organization like the Colts who have Andrew Luck, even though he's injury prone, but you go out and you spend that pick to get Jacoby. You had teams calling and asking for him. The GM was like, no, I'm not going to get rid of him. You're going to have to believe. Yeah. But he believed in Jacoby.
Yep.
And they stuck by him. Luck left, and now they're in a better situation. They've been really good about moving on from quarterbacks, protecting themselves against quarterback. If the Colts don't know nothing else, they know that you need a quality quarterback to win games. And it doesn't seem like 80% of the NFL believes that. You need a quality quarterback. You have to know when to move on. You have to have a good scouting department. You have to do good research and get a good quarterback. And that's the problem with most teams in the NFL. I mean, if it takes you going to the Patriots and giving them a pick to get somebody, do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Week 8 before we get out of here. Got some good games on deck. you got the Thursday night game or the Thursday game is just flat out bad. Washington, Minnesota. Actually, you know what? I take back what I
Is
said.
it
I look.
where do you know where it's at?
Tampa, Minnesota is at Minnesota.
So this game is bad, but it has interesting storyline because you got Kirk Cousins going against Washington, and you got Case Keenum going up against Minnesota. That was the swap. Case Keenum it took Minnesota Vikings to the divisional playoff round, or was it the NFC Championship? No, they
NFC
took him to the
Championship
NFC.
game.
He took him to the NFC Championship. They moved on from him after he
Yeah,
underperformed that next
but who
year.
cares? The Redskins stink. Like they're not
It's
even a
the
real team.
storylines, man.
Eh,
That's what it's about. It's all about the storylines. They playing on turf. You know, it's gonna be a
I
fast
gotta
game.
watch this game on Thursday.
You
No
don't
thanks.
have to.
No thanks. But as I
You
look
got
over,
the NBA's on now. You don't have
yeah,
to
see,
watch it.
I now don't have to watch bad football, and I'm not. Especially not the first week. By the way, League Pass is free this week, guys. Now I've already paid for League Pass, but make sure y'all go get NBA League Pass if you want to, and tune in to the 2Smart Dummies for our NBA content. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm looking over the schedule, man, and boo. If we call this the weekend where you want to build some brownie points with your wife, take her out, tell her you don't care about football anymore. Might be the last nice weather weekend to do it. Cause let me run down this list for you, and you tell me
I was
what
about
you're.
to say I was gonna look at the list because I hadn't really looked at it this week.
Let me tell you what you're in. What's up for you? You got
Mm.
Seattle, Atlanta. No thanks.
Mm.
You got. I know you're gonna watch it, but no one else is. Philadelphia, Buffalo.
Woo!
No
Let's go.
thanks. You've got the Chargers and the Bears. Not really interested.
But the Bears, you want to see if they can start to rebound. That's an interesting game.
You got the Giants and the Lions. No
Awful.
thanks. You've got Tampa Bay, Tennessee.
That's a good game, man. Tampa Bay, what's Tampa Bay's record?
I think they're 500. I think they're 3-3. I think.
Yeah, man. You gotta listen.
And Tennessee's 3-4. So
yeah, Tampa Bay has been decent, and Tennessee has been decent. That's going to be a good matchup.
I don't watch Titans games. I'm not going to watch a 13-12 game. I just can't do it. Can't do it.
Hey, but Jameis is becoming Fitzpatrick. He has a chance to be the next Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Throw you in, throw you out.
Yeah, he can come in there 4 games, throw for 700 yards, and the next game throw 8 picks. He can do it. He's Fitzmagic. I think he learned from Fitzmagic.
This you can be employed forever if you just do this.
Yeah. He said, "Listen, bro, all you got to do is close your eyes, give your receivers a chance. You're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some.
They're gonna pay you millions." Then you got Denver, Indianapolis. No thanks.
No.
You've got
Indianapolis is gonna blow them out.
Yeah, you've got the Bengals and the Rams. Nope. You one kind of interesting game. You got the Cardinals and the Saints. I might tune in
fun. I mean, Kyler Murray against arguably the best team in the NFC.
Yeah, I'll tune in for that. But then you got the Jets and you got the Jaguars. I don't really want to watch that.
But I think that we just saw the Jets demolish Dallas. They weren't that good, but
and then
not as bad.
Got beat.
They're not as bad as that. I mean, you got Sam Darnold, a young quarterback, going against Bill Belichick with a great defense, and a great secondary. So it's not as bad as last night, and it's not as good as against Dallas. They're somewhere in the middle.
I'd agree with that. Still not watching that game unless I've got fantasy implications. Then you've got this is actually a good game, and this has playoff implications. Might be the only one of the season or of the slate. Well, you got a couple going down the stretch actually. So this next stretch of games is going to be interesting. So you've got Carolina, San Francisco. We'll see what San Francisco really is. You got Carolina coming off the bye. They've already announced they're going to start Kyle Allen.
Yeah.
So
they announced it, right? Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So that'll be a good game, and we'll see how good these two teams are in the NFC. It's in San Francisco.
Christian McCaffrey going against that defensive line.
Yeah, and that's not great for you in a fantasy standpoint, folks. If y'all don't believe, Christian McCaffrey, I think, is the best or second best running back in the NFL. So we're going to see how good that defense is for San Francisco.
By no means am I saying don't start him. You always start.
Of course. And then you've got Cleveland and you've got New England. Could be
That's a good game.
That's a good game. We'll see
how they're going to give Baker Mayfield. If Baker Mayfield can perform against this New England defense, that can turn his season around. But nobody believes that he can with that offensive line. He probably will look like Sam Darnold.
Yeah, so it's going to be ugly if you're a Cleveland fan. Y'all had high expectations this year, but I think this will move them. If they lose this game, they're going to be what, 2-5, 3-6, something like that. Or
You can still win the division, Cleveland.
Good luck. And then you've got Oakland and Houston. Both
That should
teams
be a good game.
playoff implications, probably a wild card spot on the line there. And then, as I said, Sunday night you've got Green Bay, Kansas City. So it was a good game.
It was, but I probably won't watch it.
Yeah, but now I don't really have to tune in. And then they finish up with Miami and Pittsburgh on Monday night.
Ooh,
Nobody
real
watching
barn
that.
burner.
So
they can't flex Monday night games.
man, it wouldn't. So no, they gave that.
It'll be hard. It'll be hard to flex a Monday night game. Because a flex, you just flexing it from early game to a night game, but flexing it a whole day, that's kind of crazy.
So no need to break down that week. We'll see how it goes. These games, like I said, take your lady out unless it's your game specifically.
Well, I mean, this is the NFL being nice. They knew it was the start of the NBA season. They didn't want people to be too focused on the NFL. Let the NBA get their light in, and then next week they'll pick it back up.
Speaking of that, before we get out of here, again, one more time, NBA League Pass is free for a week, I think. That's one thing that the NBA does every season. Go check it out. Tonight, you've only got 2 games. You've got the Pelicans versus the Toronto Raptors, and then you've got the Lakers versus the Clippers to finish off as a nightcap. So we're here, folks.
And if you don't have DirecTV, you can always just download the NBA app, and the games will be free on there too. It's free for a week. So if you don't have DirecTV, if your cable network or whatever doesn't offer it, just download the NBA app, and those games will be free this week.
Yep. So now's your chance to get in, watch some new players on some new teams, and you're going to hear a lot of NBA content coming from us. We're working on some things for you guys to really get everyone interested in the NBA. So if you're not a fan, you're going to become one. So other than that, man,
tonight?
I'm gonna go Toronto. Winning it's in Toronto. It's their ring night. They're going to be full of adrenaline. I think they win.
That usually doesn't go well.
That's also true. But with no Zion, we'll see what the Pelicans are. I think Clippers going to win tonight. I do. I like Clippers. I think they're deeper. But I think it'll be a good game.
I'm going to go Pelicans. I'm going to go Pelicans, beat the Raptors, surprise them. All the theatrics from getting the ring usually wears down on teams. And I think this Pelican, as we talked about, they're going to run. They're going to be fast, even without Zion. I mean, Drew Holiday is going to shut down Kyle Lowry. You agree?
Probably. Yeah.
I mean, so from there, where do you go? You know what I mean? Yeah. There's not a lot of other options on Toronto once you take Kyle Lowry out of the picture. So I think that Pelicans will win pretty easily tonight. People might overreact. They might not. You already picked them not to make the playoffs, so it's not going to help your opinion of them.
True.
I got the Lakers winning, not because I think the Lakers are good. I just think that Paul George is significant for this team because he does. The interesting part is Kawhi is good, and that Clippers team is good, but the combination of Kawhi and Paul George is what we're looking for. He adds a lot of outside shooting, creating your own shot. Even though you have Lou Williams, that team, like we talked about on our NBA podcast, go check it out, our NBA special. That team is huge, man. You're not going to be able to defend that with Zubac. You know what I mean? Zubac. And
don't disrespect Zubats like that.
The Jermichael Green and, Kawhi Leonard guarding Anthony Davis. So I think that Lakers will get this first one, build them some confidence coming into the season.
We'll see, man. I'm excited to be here. So that's it. That's all. We'll holler at y'all next week. Probably put out a couple podcasts, and we'll see y'all then.
Peace.
Peace.